Now, as a disclaimer, before we even begin the video, while you can go through these insight or Vipassana stages on your own safely, but I still really recommend being in touch with someone who can mentor you through these stages, just to make sure that you get through these stages safely and really quickly as well. If you'd like to contact me for this guidance, then I have a section on this later in this video as well. The too long didn't watch of this video is that after the 12th step from the previous video, that is after you release your mind or your sense of observer, you continue to stay aware of your breathing, and that causes you to instinctively become aware of your body again, and the breathing there. But this time it has these weird vibrational impermanent phenomena in it as well. After that, you continue to meditate pretty much the same as before. More importantly, letting go of clinging or the tension in each of these body parts or locations. And as you do that, these vibrations or any weird phenomena move through these different locations as well. Once you've gone through all of the locations, let's say 13 or so, there's a slight shift and you move on to the next step or the next Vipassana stage. You continue to do this through all of the 5 or 6 Vipassana stages that show up. And once you've done that, you have a taste of Nirvana as well. The Vipassana steps or the stages that we discuss in this video are based on calming your mind down enough that we discussed in the previous video. So you should check that out if you haven't already. So, as a recap, once you get to this mindfulness of breathing or Anapanasati step 10, which is gladdening the mind, where you start feeling as if your mindfulness is mostly directed towards the center of your head or just behind the eyes, the sense of observer, and you start maybe having some pleasant energies or what we term as piti, maybe somewhere in your head as well. Also, there could be some increase in brightness as well, but yeah, ignore that, it doesn't really matter. No need to focus on anything right now. Now, if you continue to stay mindful, if you're an advanced meditator, that is, you have been through these 16 steps at least once before, you'll probably fall into these stages called the jhanas or samadhi, so the 11th step basically. But if this is your first pass, you probably wouldn't go through those jhanas, and you'll instead skip over to the 12th step. If you have access to jhanas because you have been through these 16 stages before, then yeah, simply fall into the jhanas, continue to practice the same way as you have been doing until now. So the sense of letting go and relaxing, and that'll cause you to rise up to the highest jhana that you can naturally, and then you'll again fall out into the 12th step. Also, an important point, if you are able to access jhanas, then to actually fall into this 12th step so that you can begin vipassana through these jhanas, you actually need to fall into what I like to call natural jhanas, or what the Buddha meant by right jhanas or right samadhi. How to fall into these natural jhanas and what is the difference between these and what I like to call artificial or forced jhanas, we'll probably discuss that in another video. Now, going back to just before the 12th step, let's say your mindfulness is directed towards the center of your head. You'll start noticing that there are these tensions that start arising in your mind or body. So you could feel a sense of unease or tension around your chest, maybe in your head. Along with that, your heart might start racing. You might have thoughts related to self doubt or something at this time as well. But don't worry about that. Just try and relax and let go while staying mindful. If you do that, you might have a sudden and a slight relief or a release, and the sense of being located in your head might go down, and your awareness might become slightly wider as well. So you'll become a lot more aware, And the peace, the sense of peace would go up as well, but it won't be perfect, but still it's pretty nice. This is step 12, releasing the mind. Now after this, stay mindful of your breathing, and as soon as you do that, your mind or your awareness could be directed towards your body, so maybe your legs or your hands or something. And when your awareness or your attention is directed towards your body, you'll start noticing these vibratory phenomena or vibrations, or just a sense of impermanence in your body as well. This is the start of Vipassana stages. So during this time, you should again continue to stay mindful as you previously had. And also, whenever these tensions start arising, try and let go of them using an exhale. You can also optionally continue to have that slight smile, but it's more optional right now. Also, your attention might be naturally directed towards these body locations as well. That's completely fine. And at this point, if you stay mindful of the breathing movement, you'll be noticing it happening through these body locations. In this case, your hands, legs, whatever. And the breath would sort of be intermixing with these vibrations or these vipassana phenomena as well. Now, to progress, just stay mindful of your breath as it intermixes with the vibrations or just the breath in general. And stay alert to any sort of unease or tension that builds up in these body parts. And when that does, just let go using an exhale as you have done during the previous steps. Once you do that, similar to the previous 12 steps, your the body part that you are aware of, and especially where you feel this breathing happening, would change as well. So you'll move on from, let's say, your hands and legs to the chest area now. Along with that, the vibrations would start happening in the chest as well. Again, stay alert to any tensions that arise and let go of this tension as well, which will allow you to move on from this body part to the next body part, which would probably be somewhere around the jaw. And so on. You move through pretty much all of those stages or locations that you move through during the calming meditation or the shamatha steps in the first 12 steps. So you move from your jaw to your forehead to these intention nuclei or locations related to intentions. And after that, you move on to the sense of observer or attention in your head as well. In total, there are around 13 locations that you need to go through. And once you have gone through all 13 of these, a slight shift or a slight release or relief happens, but it's a pretty small one. And after that, if you continue to stay mindful of the breathing and the next weird phenomena, maybe even vibrations, start happening back in the first location, which is your body or your legs and stuff. And then you again continue letting go of the tensions that arise in the body, and this entire location thing, all of these 13 steps, 13 locations that you need to go through, repeat. So every time you let go of these 13 locations where you can feel the breathing and the weird phenomena, you complete one Vipassana step or one Vipassana stage. So when the vibrations first started after the Anapanasati step 12, you moved into what we can call Vipassana stage number 1, or basically Anapanasati step 13. So contemplation of impermanence, where you're seeing these vibrations. During this step, one other symptom that some people do feel is a slight sense of joy. After you went through those 13 locations and let go of each of them, then after that slight shift, you moved into Vipassana stage 2. Now, not all of these Vipassana stages are mentioned in the Anapanasati steps, but that's just geeky details. And what happens in these stages as well, that's something that's pretty geeky as well, and that you can ignore for now. We'll discuss those details maybe in another video. Now, Vipassana stage 2 can have some increased sense of dukkha or unease more than the previous stages. So that's normal. This unease happens because underneath all of the meditation that you're doing right now, your attention and your mind is going through cycles of dependent origination. So your mind is trying to see how dependent origination leads to dukkha. Also, since dependent origination is happening during this stage, you might feel like your mind is really scattered, distracted, and you might have some dullness, that is ignorance as well. This is completely normal, and there is nothing wrong that's going on with your meditation. You shouldn't compare these stages with the previous shamatha or calming meditation stages. Yeah, just keep on continuing as if everything is normal in these stages. Also, you'll notice these mental fetters and the symptoms in these stages as well, which could be for a lot of people thoughts of self doubt and also an increased sense of self consciousness. So, feeling as if you being watched, which is related to the fetter of personality view. All you need to know in these stages is that these symptoms are fake. So these thoughts of self-doubt, as if you can't meditate and you don't know what you're doing, all of these things are automated, almost robotic, that are happening because of dependent origination. It's not something that you are doing, so don't take them seriously. Now, this stage, according to me, can also be called knowledge and vision. Now, if you go through the 13 locations again in this stage, you'll move on to the next stage, which is Vipassana stage number 3, and which can be called knowledge of disgust or nibbida. Underneath all of the phenomena that's happening, your attention is probably being really aversive to the body locations, and that's why it again leads to dependent origination and dukkha. So Vipassana stage 2 and 3 are pretty unpleasant for most people. But what attention is doing underneath all of this isn't really important for you right now. All you need to do is continue just being mindful and letting go of any unease that arise. These geeky things you can look at later during your future sits. Now, after you stay calm and go through all of these 13 steps again, that's when you reach Vipassana stage number 4, which is also Anapanasati step 14. This is knowledge of dispassion or fading away of lust. Again, as a geeky detail, your attention doesn't really want to cling to these locations anymore. And so you feel pretty okay, pretty equanimous compared to the previous stages. And until this stage, the vibrations sort of go back in the background. You can't really sense them easily, so it's normal. Just stay mindful of the breathing, just to know which body part you are dealing with right now and which body part to let go. Now, after you've gone through all of the 13 steps here, you arrive at probably one of the most important steps, which is Vipassana stage 5. And that is Nirvana. And the way this turns out is you stay mindful of the breathing. Maybe some unease sort of arises as if something is about to happen. And you stay calm and you let go of that unease. Now, this unease can be really high for some people as well. Your heart could be beating really fast. You might feel like you're about to die, but you shouldn't worry. This is normal. All you need to do is relax and let go. These heart beating and just a sense of unease is related to your personality view, which is about to die. Um, and it isn't related to anything happening to you physically. But in case you have a medical condition, I do recommend checking with your doctor if it's safe for you to go through these stages. And that leads to your eyes probably getting shut really hard automatically, your head or your neck dropping down, a sudden sense of darkness in your subjective view, and your attention sort of goes away, so your sense of observer goes away. If you stay mindful in that position, then the letting go of even intentionality or doership happens, and you sort of rise up with your eyes probably wide open, and this pure sense of sublime peace with no sense or really low sense of doership or observer, being an observer, a low sense of self, and that is nirvana or nirodha of dukkha. What has happened here is that all of those dependent origination chains that were happening until now have gone away completely. There are no links of dependent origination happening, and that's why you have this ultimate peace. Now, during this stage, just continue staying aware of whatever, of the breathing, of the body. You'll automatically be pretty aware. And after a few seconds of or minutes of that, you sort of come back to being aware of your body like you previously were. And that's when you shift into Vipassana stage 6, which is letting go. Now, in this stage, you again just let go of the 13 locations that you have, starting at the body. But the one difference is after you go through these 13 locations, you then actually let go of the first location. So, let's say your body, the first aggregate. Then you start at the feelings or the chest location again. You go through the rest of the 12 steps, the 12 locations, letting go of each of them. And then you properly let go of this clinging to this chest location. Then you start at the jaw or whatever. You go ahead now the remaining 11 steps, and then let go of this jaw thing as well. And so this sort of weird progression happens in this stage where you progressively let go of this deep clinging to each of these locations. And after this final stage or step, that can be called preview or knowledge of life without fetters, happens, or this is also probably called fruition. This stage gives you a preview into what your new, shiny new mind would sort of feel like or look like to you after all these insights that you've gathered through the previous stages sort of settle in over time. This far more calmer, wiser, shiny new mind is what can be called the fruit of all of these insights that you've gathered. So when you get this fruit permanently, that's called fruit attainment. And this sort of small preview is something that can be called fruition. Now, side note, people who are familiar with uh, the stages of permanent wisdom, called stages of awakening or stages of liberation, would think that just going through these 16 steps and getting this sort of fruition means that you are a so called stream enterer straight away. But that's not true. What you have done until now means that you have attained the path of stream entry. At this point, you have truly started your journey of finally letting your insight settle in and deep cleaning your mind permanently, which will then lead to the fruit of stream entry or you becoming a stream enterer. Now, again, if you continue to stay mindful of your breathing, you'll soon enough return to what seems like Anapanasati step 1, which is breathing through your nose or those initial steps. And that means that this entire unit of sit, all of these 16 steps are now completed, and you can finally get up. The first time you go through all of these 16 steps and this 16th step happens, you might have a lot of joy and happiness or a lot of confidence towards the end as well. And when you get up for the next few hours, your mind would behave like how it would once those permanent insights settle in. But they will go away as we just discussed. Now, how to make these insights permanent so that you have a permanent change in your mind or your personality is something that we look into the future. But long story short, you just need to repeat these same 16 steps hundreds of times, if not more. Now let's just quickly look at some of the insights that our mind acquired going through these Vipassana stages. Stage 1 reveals that stuff that our mind usually clings to is impermanent. Stage 2 reveals that clinging to these impermanent things causes a lot of unpleasantness and dukkha. Stage 3 reveals that even running away from these things causes dukkha as well. Stage 4 reveals that equanimity, that is neither clinging nor aversion, leads to far more peace. And stage 5 reveals that letting go of even more control and even more clinging leads to this ultimate peace, where this sense of being a separate, permanent self is revealed as being fake and nothing more than a feeling. In stage 6, the mind, which has acquired so many insights until now, finally lets go to a certain extent of clinging to things. And in stage 7, the fruit of not clinging so much to concepts, to having a personality, etc., is revealed as well. Now, some very important tips. These Vipassana stages are safe. It's not as bad as what you might have heard from some people, as in terms of unpleasantness. It's just knowledge of unpleasantness, not really you doing something wrong in your meditation. So stay calm. It's just your mind learning what causes dukkha and what doesn't cause dukkha. But since dukkha can happen, what's important, according to me, is to get through these stages quickly and to not get up without ideally finishing all of these Vipassana stages, basically all of these 16 steps, in a single sitting. So that might take an hour or maybe 2 hours, but yeah, I'd ideally suggest doing that in a single sit. If you do get up in between in one of these Vipassana stages, let's say during Vipassana stage number 2 or Vipassana stages number 3, then you'll probably have some mood swings during your daily life. You'll probably feel the effects of Vipassana bleeding into your daily life. So ideally don't do that. But if that's happening, just go back to meditation and you'll probably just restart directly from Vipassana stages without even having to go through the shamatha or the calming meditation steps before that. Tip number 2, since you can possibly go through these symptoms of Vipassana during your daily life if you don't complete all of these steps together, I do recommend being really sincere about your virtue and your precepts and living a simple life, especially when you're going through this, so that you don't cause yourself any harm and neither do you cause others harm. Know that these weird things are only happening because of Vipassana, and all you need to do is progress forward. You can't really undo these stages as easily. Number 3, at least while you are in these Vipassana stages, I sincerely recommend being in almost constant touch every day with an experienced meditator or a mentor who can guide you through all of these stages quickly and easily. In this case, especially once you start reaching these stages, I offer guidance through either one-on-one Zoom calls, free Zoom calls, or just chatting over a messenger or something. I have the experience of teaching and guiding quite a few meditators through these stages in the past as well. The aim is to live a good and a wholesome life and get there as quickly as you can so that you can spend the remainder of your life living that good life as well. And for that, our aim is to get you through these Vipassana stages as quickly as possible, but also with a lot of ease and relaxation. So, if that sort of goal matches or resonates with you, then I think, I can be a pretty good guide for you as well. Feel free to message me if that's the case. I leave the contact details down in the comment section and in the description. So, in short, even though these stages might seem weird or unpleasant to some, I really recommend going through these stages. It's really what meditation ultimately is all about. It's about these permanent changes to your mind and not just temporarily feeling nice in your sit. The first time you go through all of these 16 steps is really a life-changing moment. So that's it. Maybe in a future video, we'll go over some of these symptoms of these Vipassana stages. And B, we'll also look at how do we finish the job, at least the first job that we just started. That is making these insights permanently stick in our mind so that our personality and our mind changes for the better. It acquires this permanent sense of generosity, compassion, and just how it relates to the world in general.